Good afternoon. Welcome to Marshall, Parker, and Weber's webinar, The Family Meeting, Part 2, The Family Business. My name is Tammy Weber. I'm a certified elder law attorney here at Marshall, Parker, and Weber. And with me today is Patti Jo Turner, case manager in our office for over 21 years. Welcome, Patti.
Thanks. Hi, everybody.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about the family business. This one you might have seen on television if you're a Modern Family viewer, but sort of gives you the sense, if you've seen it, of the different dynamics that can happen with a family business. So we're just going to meet the family today. We have Jay, the father.
And Jay is in good health. He's 69, and he owns a custom closet business. How many of us wouldn't like to be married to him?
I'd like a closet.
His wife, Gloria, is a tad younger. She's 42. She's in very good health. This is a second marriage for both of them.
And then there are several children that appear on the show. Claire and Mitchell are Jays.
They're Jays from his first marriage, right. Claire and Mitchell are close in age. They're 59 and 58. They're both married. Claire has 3 children, and she works for the closet business. Mitchell is an attorney and has no interest in the closet business whatsoever. Additional family members, we have Manny. Manny is 17. He's Gloria's child from her first marriage, but Jay has adopted him. It doesn't appear that he's going to have any interest in the closet business either, but no one knows for sure. And then there's Joe, the little guy. He's 3, and he is a joint project between Jay and Gloria.
So really, what's the purpose of a family meeting? When it comes to a business, it's almost the same as a personal family meeting. You have to open up the lines of communication between all the parties about what's going on in the business. And really the point is to prepare the family members and whomever the key players are in the business for what they're going to be doing in the future. There may be perceptions and thoughts as to what's going to happen, and they may not meet what the plan is. And then it's a good time to introduce all of the family members and the key players to your professional advisors and just give the high level view of what your choices are and why you started the business, etc. So who should come to the meeting, Patti Jo?
Well, obviously the owner and the spouse, usually that's working as a team, but not always. Any adult children that are in the family, whether or not they're involved in the business. And then the key players, the attorney representing the business, the financial advisor, the accountant is usually a key player in this meeting, and any other business consultants that tend to have a regular connection with the business.
Yeah, because the financial advisor, if we get into conversations about retirement, for example, is the one that's going to be able to say to the owner if they have enough money to retire or what they need to do with their business. Another interesting thing is we may assume the meeting should take place at the business itself, but that might not be the best location. You may not want to have other employees see what's going on or have the possibility of overhearing what's going on, so you may want to choose a neutral location like the attorney's office or the financial advisor's office.
Sure, it tend to raise alarm bells to all the other employees when they see everybody that's in any kind of capacity come traipsing into the boardroom. So off-site might be a really good way to avoid that.
And then when you're thinking about the family meeting, you have to develop what's going to be discussed. Typically, most businesses, if they don't, they should be having at a minimum yearly meetings.
At a minimum.
But come up with an agenda. And the first one may be a little shorter, maybe more higher level to just introduce everybody, but list what you're going to talk about. if you're not ready to talk about what's going to happen when you retire, then don't talk about it. Or especially if you have children or family members there who are not involved in the business, a more general discussion may be best for the first one. Got to stick to the agenda, and the agenda should have the time on it. We're starting at 9 and we're ending at 11, or we're starting at 9 and we're ending at 10:30, and stick to it and set the ground rules.
I think it's fair to say that this does not need to be an all-encompassing event. You can look at this as the first of a series of meetings. If we don't have everything all nailed down at this point, it's always a place to start and let them know, look, this is the first one, and then we'll progress from whatever we discern is important after this meeting.
Correct. So the main things you might want to cover: what's the mission, what are the values of the business? And you need to share that. Now, you should be doing that as a business owner or owners with your employees. That's really how you achieve goals. But we've seen some small businesses really where it's not written down anywhere. They don't have a mission, they don't have value. They may just say, oh, it's been in the family for generations, and this is what we do. We make the best closets, aren't they lovely? And we make money. And that might be it. But if you don't have it, it's a good time to put it in writing. That might be a good exercise to coalesce all the people that are there at the meeting. It might be helpful to have everybody be all in as part of that process. What do you think, Patti Jo?
I think that's a nice way. Often there was probably a bigger minded mission or goal when the company was started, and some of that may have just either been assumed to have been passed down with the business, and the second and third generation just may not have heard it. Look, this is why we started this, and here was the need, and this was what we had hoped, and the business has probably changed since that started, but it's a nice way to really connect people to the core of the business.
So as we go down another little level, we may want to start talking about succession plan. What happens if one of the owner or the sole owner passes away or is incapacitated or just said, you know, I've been doing this for all my life, I'm moving to Tahiti, I'm done. Very important to know what the plan is from a business perspective. If there are shares in this business, are there any documents that say who those shares can be transferred to? Honestly, in the cases that Patti and I have worked on over the years, this seems to be a missing element for some reason.
The part of the puzzle we're going to have to fill in.
And a lot of the clients just say, well, gee, we assumed it could be this, and it wasn't written down.
Yes, all along it may have been, well, of course it'll be Claire. Claire's going to take over. And no one has ever talked about it. No one's ever asked Claire if she wanted to. No one's ever nailed down what parts of this running this business is Claire good at. What parts do we need to maybe look at supplementing? So the assumption that is in everyone's mind may not match the actual paperwork, if there is any, or the legal passing of the torch. And then you may just not realize that the two don't match.
And projected retirement date, really important. If you're knowing that something is going to happen in the future, you have internal and external perceptions that could affect the business. So if this is not rolled out in an appropriate way with a plan internally and staff or employees get wind of it, they may say, oh my gosh, that person's been there forever. You know, Jay's been running it. We don't want to deal with Claire. We don't want to deal with this person. We're going to go start looking for a job. You may lose employees. It's a good opportunity to have employees part of the process. Externally, as with anything else, if somebody who's been driving the bus the entire time isn't going to be there anymore. It's competition could arise, and the bottom line could be affected in terms of revenue. Some people just decide we don't want the business to go on anymore. They might just want to end it. Often the first meeting with the family members there is appropriate because, as the next question illustrates, maybe the family doesn't want to own the type of business. Maybe they're all like Mitchell.
Yeah, or the industry has changed. We've had clients where the family loves the business and it's been great to them and they're all in, but the nature of the business that they have has changed based on technology or natural resources in an area. So this is a good time to actually take a look at that. And then some people who are their family members may be sitting there and they may want shares in the business. They may think this is a huge moneymaker. Their family, they get a right to have the money. First of all, is that okay with the owners? And even if it were, there may be a financial advantage to having a family member invest, if you will, invest dollars, not necessarily time. But if their skill set is not running a business or they don't know about closets, you don't want to have what I call backseat drivers in your business if they have shares. So there are ways to address whether there were voting shares or non-voting shares, and typically having a either non-family member, non-key player as an owner of the business, you wouldn't want to give them a vote. Sure. They don't know how things run. They don't know what's been done in the past. And it's not fair to the people who've been running this business for years to have someone swoop in and decide how they'd like it run.
So as you're talking through these things, one of the big questions might be, what if they can't continue to manage the business? So Jay gets in a car accident. Claire says, I'm done. I'm not going to do any of this. What's going to happen? You might have what we call key employees, somebody who's not a family member, who's been there a very long time, and they know everything from who all the parts are ordered from, who's used to truck things, what stores are the best, what customers pay on time, which ones don't. Absolutely. Exactly. What's the cash flow for some of those customers, when the good selling time are. So you want to know, and if you have a key employee at this meeting, if you don't already, it's good to have key employee insurance.
Absolutely.
What if that key employee passes on, or you want to incentivize them to stay?
Yeah.
So perks, etc., will be part of this management plan. And again, let's go back to your family wants to manage the business. This can be the fun, I say tongue-in-cheek, part of having a true evaluation of the strengths and the weaknesses of your family members. What are their skill sets? Are the people and staff that are there good? Are they able to do additional jobs or do more management than they have in the past? And if they're able to, do they want to?
Yeah.
Often that might be the second meeting or so.
Yeah.
So if nobody's going to manage it, or you want to come up with a plan, Patti Jo, about the business, what are some of the options we have?
You know, often it's the owner's intent, and always has been, that they would, quote unquote, sell the business to the next generation, whoever's going to run it. They maybe bought it from their parent or build it from the ground up, and are looking for the proceeds from the sale of that business to provide some income for them. And that's really how they've mentally figured this was going to go all along, without stopping to consider whether or not the sale is realistic. is Claire able to take on the financial burden of purchasing the business from her father? She's got kids going to college, planning for her own retirement. Maybe her husband lost his job, and that often throws a wrench into this step of the planning because it's just not viable. And that leaves you stuck with, well, does mom and dad finance the sale, or do we have to look for a completely different method of transferring the business?
So once you come up with these more global options, then I think that's when the accountant comes in and says, here are the tax consequences. Jay's retiring, he may not want to be paying higher income tax on receipts, or if he's financing, there will be a different outcome from a tax standpoint for him. And keep in mind, as the tip on the slide says, this is not an overnight process.
Gosh, no.
It could be years. You deal with the personalities and the dynamics. Then there are vendors often that maybe only feel comfortable dealing with Jay, and their trust and the goodwill that's been bought and built up in the closet businesses with Jay only and not with Claire. You have to look at all of that because, again, that would affect the profitability from a financial standpoint of this firm. And then the buyer, may have to go out and leverage things. As, Patti said, Claire's husband might not be working. He's a realtor. That's not necessarily a steady income. It comes and it goes. And she could be the sole support.
She may be.
For the family.
And that's often the case. And it's usually somebody who's probably worked in the business their whole life. From high school on, they already see the business as theirs. So the prospect of purchasing it might need to be framed differently in order to make this happen. And there are other kids to consider.
So there are different kinds of assets of the business. It could be the goodwill. It could be the name. Could be land, which we'll talk about in a second. The building, the vehicles, all the appropriate leases and things that come under the umbrella of having a business. So then part of that would be reviewed.
Right.
So we've seen some operating agreements that are 2 pages, and obviously that's not going to really get it done if there are questions.
No. And 2 pages is 2 pages more than in some other cases we've seen.
True. So it seems like a problem and probably one of those hurdles that when you're starting a business, it's a lot of work, that you just figure, I'm not going to do this, or it's not in the budget to pay my lawyer to write a really good operating agreement. So we'll get to that. And then fast forward 25 years and nobody has it anymore. So the operating agreement should lay out things like what happens if the owner is incapacitated? What if they die? What if they quit? Who makes that determination? If it's a sole owner, who's going to manage the business? Some of our clients we've recommended, and they've done operating committees comprised of a combination of maybe their accountants, a sibling, somebody who's familiar with the business as well. Because what you don't want to do is devalue the business by a sudden death and then not get the value out of it when it's sold.
Then you start looking at an emergency liquidation, and a lot of the value will drop just by virtue of the way it's being perceived, not that the business is worth less.
And then you also want to talk about if there's a death, a sale, an incapacity, if there are other owners, who has the first right to purchase those shares of the business. So when you set that up, it's really up to the owner. It's up to Jay. Does he want to keep it within the family so only certain people can purchase? One of the things we see is the in-laws or the significant other of the other family members. Do they want to be involved or not? And then we go into maybe what happens if there's a divorce. That's a hard thing to talk about, but those are the things you need to talk about when you're reviewing what needs to be done and reviewing current business documents. So, say Jay owns the actual physical building where the closet business is. This might be a way that he could retain ownership of the actual building itself, not the company, lease it back to the company. It's a different way for him to receive income in his retirement.
He'd get the income, be able to have the value of that real estate in his estate. Because remember, there's a couple other kids that play here that aren't involved with the business. So that might be another way that Jay can help pass along some assets to the other children as well.
And so when you're looking at this, if he's leasing the building back, from the company's standpoint, Claire and the other key employees want to make sure there's going to be a place to make the closet that it's renewable under some favorable terms. Again, other issues that you want to talk about. And then where are the documents? If they have the documents, where are they?
Sign them. Read them. Amend them.
Where's the checkbook? Where are the stock certificates? Who has the authority to sign for the company, to get loans, to do all these things that come up from time to time in a business in order to run it in an orderly fashion? Part and parcel of that is reviewing the estate planning documents. Patti, as you mentioned, a lot of the value in Jay's estate might be the building itself that houses the closet business. And he may choose to pass that on, in some part, the value to Mitchell, or give Claire the right to buy it at a discounted amount of money.
So that the purchase price goes back into the estate.
Correct.
For the other kids.
Exactly. So there's some cash to share. And the balancing or the equalizing of an estate is also the tricky thing when it comes to a family business. So the first part would be, well, if Jay dies and all of his wealth is wrapped up in the business, what about Gloria? What's she getting? You know, how she's, as Patti pointed out, a little bit younger, and she would need money to live on, and they have child Joe that's not even yet in high school. So money needs to come from there, from someplace. So often one of the discussions, along with the review of the planning documents, is life insurance that will maybe give some additional money. And you want to make sure, too, that when you're doing that, of course, the powers of attorney are up to date. And if there are any shares in the company that need to be passed on, Jay shares through his will, we would want to update that as well. So, Patti, what about the investment planning? What do you think? We leave that up to the financial advisor?
Well, as much as we can, yes. But there are things that they just have to take into account. With so many family businesses, the entire estate of the owner and mom and dad is tied up in one big ball of yarn. It makes it much more difficult to divvy things up when a bulk of the assets are in one bucket and it looks like there's less outside of that bucket, whether it's the closet business or the real estate to make the closets. There are other children, and the investment professional will be able to help making sure that the assets that are owned just by Jay and Gloria can be maximized to help get the final estate where it needs to go, even if they are separate from the business. It's really hard to untwine those one from the other.
True, and as we're doing this, another thing that each company does it differently and each accountant has a different recommendation, but how do you maintain the valuation of the business? So some companies do it yearly, and there's some reasons for accounting principles, and then you have to set the buyout price if there's ever purchase, or the valuation upon the death of one of the owners, what's subject to inheritance tax. So consulting is good for all of these things.
Every one of them, absolutely.
And often even just for, aside from financial goals, the personalities and making the transition to either a new generation of ownership or a new style of ownership can be very helpful.
Absolutely. And it's a disinterested third party. Often these professionals, these counselors to the business are also the same people who are the professionals and counselors for Jay and Gloria personally. So they are in a really unique position to be able to look at the whole picture and be able to say, oh, yeah, but if you go with plan A, here's what you need to think about in terms of your other goals. We're not going to meet these, or we need to change them. So that having that team approach is invaluable.
Okay, so once we come up with, we're getting the end of the first meeting, what do we do after the meeting? So clearly, you've been taking notes. Maybe, hopefully, contemporaneously, you might pick somebody to be the scribe of the meeting. Mm-hmm. And this is, you might share them with everybody, or you may determine as the owner's going to look at them and review them and send out a summary of what we did and what the understanding is and what the next step is and when it is going to occur, and then schedule up follow-up meetings. It's important at the end, and when you end of any meeting, maybe to get feedback and to list an agenda point to just summarize everything. So again, everyone is on the same page.
Absolutely. And if there's a next step, outline what's going to happen next, and a projected timeline, and who's
going to do it.
Who's going to facilitate whatever the next step is.
The dreaded to-do list. Yes, everybody loves that, when their name is on it with a date. And it's important to stick to those dates. And if they're not realistic, reset them, because you don't want to interject angst and frustration into an otherwise what could be a happy transition of ownership of a family business. So we've just talked about some very high points in terms of consideration. I don't see anybody typing any questions in the Q&A box. I know we have people with us. So I will just end by saying thank you to everybody for joining us today. We have other webinars that are saved on our website, paelderlaw.com. We look forward to you joining us at another session. Thank you.
Thank you.